Sitting around the man cave this morning. A little dreary outside. We've had some severe storms, some drizzling rains. V and I were going to go on a ride yesterday, and thunderstorms rolled in, and we were getting severe storm warnings. So we decided to hold off on that, and a good thing we did because it wasn't long. Maybe about 20 minutes later, the sky just turned black and the thunder started booming, and then she rolled. So we're getting a little bit of rain. That's a good thing. It's going through the first full week of August, and what's that remind you of? That's when the Sturgis rally is held every year in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And it made me just kind of want to reflect on some of my favorite experiences there in the Black Hills and when I would ride out there. You know, most of that, when you plan to go on a ride like that, on an epic adventure, and if you're a motorcyclist, Sturgis is definitely an epic trip. It's a lot of fun. You're going to be around a lot of other bikers, and you're going to meet people, and you're just going to have a really awesome time riding the Black Hills and cruising that area. But I think a lot of the trip was the anticipation of getting ready to go on the trip, though. Knowing that I was going out to Sturgis and getting everything packed up on the bike, bungeed on there, my bedroll, my tent, my personal items that I was going to need. I couldn't take a whole lot, you know. I didn't have a lot of luggage space on my bike, but I loaded it up, and then the day that you hit the road, it's kind of butterflies in the stomach, like, okay, here we go. It's like jumping off the cliff, and you hit the highway, and it doesn't take long for you to get used to the fact that you're going to be sitting on that saddle all day. And I would just go as far as I could go and try to knock out at least half of the trip. So if I could get 600 miles in, I knew I was halfway. And I would just, you know, I wouldn't spend a lot of time stopping to do anything but refuel and hit the road again so I could knock out miles. That was my thing. I wanted to get there. You know, I knew what was in store for me, and I wanted to get there. So I really plugged out the miles. Part of that trip, though, is just amazing, you know, going across the country on a motorcycle. You smell the fresh hay being cut, the cow manure, the sunflowers. You feel the wind in your face, the rain, the sunshine, the heat. And there's stops along the way, you know. When you get into South Dakota, I always had to stop at Wall Drug. That's always a favorite place of mine, just to browse through there, take a little break. Very touristy, but it's a must-do if you've never done it. Wall Drug is definitely a stop. And then, of course, right there, not too far from Wall Drug, is the Badlands, the National Badlands, which is just amazing to see, too. You take a little cut through there and check out the beauty of the Badlands. It's just awesome. The first time I ever went out there was probably in the early 70s. And I did have a motorcycle at the time, but it was the Yamaha 175 Enduro, so I wasn't going to ride 1,200 miles to Sturgis on that. I suppose I could, but that would have been a real challenge, I'm sure. And I didn't even realize the Sturgis Rally existed at that time. I happened to be driving through that area and stopped there in Sturgis and was just blown away and completely enamored by the rally and all the motorcycles that were there. And back in those days, it was quite a bit different because it was more of the earlier stages of the rally. So you didn't see all of the baggers and the dressers that are there today. As I call them, the yuppies, you know. Back then it was more, a lot of Harleys, but older, you know, a lot of rat bikes, bobbers, and custom choppers that lined the streets at that time. My very first t-shirt, Sturgis t-shirt I purchased there that year, and there was some outlaw bikers. I don't remember what club they were from, but they had a white pickup truck, and the bed of the truck was just full of boxes of black T-shirts. They're kind of their homemade Sturgis T-shirts. And I walked up there and asked him how much the T-shirts were. He threw me a T-shirt, and I think he said they were, at that time, $10, $12, something like that. I told him I needed a medium. I was a skinny little fart then, and he gave me a large and said, one size fits all. And I wasn't going to argue with this guy. He was a big, ugly-looking dude. But I still have that shirt today. It's a little tattered, it's a little ripped and shredded, but I've kept it as one, because it was like one of my favorite T-shirts, and I wore the heck out of that thing. After that, I vowed that, next time I'd go out there, I'd be on a motorcycle, and I was. And then since that time, I've been out there quite a few times and really enjoyed that area. I always camped at the Buffalo Chip. Well, I shouldn't say that. I camped at a couple other campsites prior to trying the Buffalo Chip in previous years, the smaller campgrounds that were just as wild. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they were enjoyable too. Later on, then, I realized the Buffalo Chip was kind of a community of itself. They had everything you ever needed there. You would, if you camp at the Buffalo Chip, you'll never have to leave that, because they have the camp store, they have the restaurant there, they have bars there where you can get beer or drinks. They have entertainment there all day long. They have contests, biker contests. So there was lots of fun stuff going on there. And I always met new people, always met cool people. At the Buffalo Chip, they originally had like a booth there right by the grandstand area or by the main stage area. And the guy in there they called him Crazy George. And he was quite a comedian, but he was an old biker guy. And he was on the mic most all the day long, just kind of doing the MC thing, just letting you know what was going on. We got alligator wrestling over on stage number 3 going on in about 15 minutes if you want to get over there and check that out. But then he was always people watching too, because he sat there at his little booth and he would look out and he would really put some digs on people, and it was hilarious, some of the stuff that he did. I used to sit there and laugh and just have the best time while listening to him. In Sturgis itself, lots of good rides. I remember I usually was always solo. I didn't have people to ride with. Actually, I met up with some of the club members out there at one point, or actually a couple times. But they weren't real prone to going riding. They wanted to sit around the camp and just be lazy all day, where I was always on the bike and gone. I would just ride, and really try to get some adventure in, because that's why I was there, to do Spearfish Canyon and winding down through the canyon and seeing the waterfalls and just the beauty of that rushing mountain stream going down through the canyon there. It's just exhilarating. Stopping at the little burgs and towns there, Spearfish and Deadwood. I always had to gamble at least $5 in Deadwood, although I never really came out ahead. I put money in those slots, and it just sucks the money right out of my hand before I even know what happened. Downtown Sturgis itself is interesting because, that's like the main, when you see the Sturgis rally, you see all the bikes lined up on Main Street there. And so I always had to do that, although it wasn't really my most favorite thing, because it's very, very congested, very, very crowded. And I think one of my most favorite memories of that was going down in Main Street there and then backing my bike right up to the sidewalk. And then instead of like walking around through the crowds, I just, laid my jacket out on the fuel tank there and leaned back, kicked my feet up on the taillight, and just kind of laid back there and watched the crowd walk by. I did some people watching. And you'd be surprised how many people stopped to chat with me. And I just had the best day, just really relaxing there, almost like laying. It wasn't quite as comfortable as my lounge chair, but it was a nice place to sit and watch the people go by. And if you're into people watching, downtown Sturgis is where you're going to see some things. I'm going to tell you right now. When V and I went out there together, we did all the cool rides. But when we were downtown, this was a pretty funny memory. It was hot, it was like 100 degrees, and it was very crowded. And she was getting very frustrated trying to dodge people. And every time you go into a shop or a bar or anywhere, it was shoulder to shoulder. You had to squeeze your way through, and it wasn't becoming very much fun for her. So she took off on this march down the sidewalk, just kind of busting her way through the crowd. And I was trying my best to keep up with her, but she was... Well, she decided to take a little rest, but she didn't really look around to see where she was. She had walked right into the middle of the Angels. They had a little gathering right there on the sidewalk. And there was probably at least a dozen of them with their cuts on, and they were all gathering there and talking. And she walks right into the middle of them and stops. And is like catching her breath and just like looking around. Well, I walked up and I saw, oh my gosh, she's right in the middle of a group of Hell's Angels, and I mean literally right in the middle of their party. And I thought, is she going to notice? Is she going to actually look to see who's standing around her? Well, they're looking at her like, okay, what's this lady want? And I'm like trying to wave to her like, look at the patches, please, because I really don't want to walk in there and grab you, or have to embarrass you. I was hoping that she would just kind of notice, which all of a sudden it struck her that, oh, I see, and she turned around and walked out of there. But it was pretty funny. We both laughed about it, and not that she was in any danger or anything. It was just kind of funny how she, of all the places where she wanted to stop, right in the middle of their party. So it was pretty hilarious, actually. Another favorite memory of mine was the concerts that they had at the Buffalo Chip. And in particular, I always liked to see Steppenwolf. There was one particular day there where I actually got to see John on his Harley going by prior to the concert, and I actually got a picture of him. Custom painted with all the Steppenwolf design on there. Pretty cool bike. But I had gone out riding that day, and I went down to Custer. Custer State Park is a favorite place of mine. I always loved riding down there because I love doing the wildlife loop. And it's kind of a crapshoot, but I got lucky every time. I would get to see the bison or the free range buffalo that roam the area. And it's always common that they're right in the middle of the road, and you got to like make your way through them, which is a little hair-raising at times because these bison are unpredictable, extremely powerful, and just really cool animals. They're just massive, and it's just a neat experience. And I had spent a little more time down there than I had figured for. Well, I started riding back, and I thought, you know what? Before I head back to Sturgis, I'm going to do the Needles, which is another, the Needles Highway runs up through the Black Hills, and you actually go up to the Needle Spires, and you go through the tunnel. Well, as I hit the Needles and started running up through there, it was pretty obvious that there wasn't a lot of bikes on the road because it was starting to get later in the day, very late in the day. And by the time I got up to the Needles, it was already dusk, and I still had to ride all the way back out of there, so I ended up riding out of there in the dark, which wasn't a lot of fun. because of the deer and stuff that come out in the road. So I was being very cautious. There was, mountain sheep, and you just got to be really careful. And it was dark already, and I thought, oh my gosh, Steppenwolf was the headliner that night, and they usually didn't start playing till 11 o'clock, sometimes midnight, because the bands, the warm-up bands wouldn't even start till like 10 p.m. I got on the highway, and just by luck, I was able to side up with a Hell's Angel, and he was going over 100 miles an hour, and I just kept on his tail, and he was good with it. He gave me the thumbs up, just to follow him, and we ripped all the way up the highway, all the way up to Sturgis, and I made it into the Buffalo Chip. I think I missed the opening tune that Steppenwolf did that night, but I made it for the concert. And that was one heck of a ride, I'm telling you. Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was awesome. Going up the highway there, the guy split off on one of the exits and waved me goodbye. I was almost there anyway, and I gave him the thumbs up and continued on my way. But what a memory, And Sturgis is just full of memories like that. I mean, every time you go, it's a new adventure, something different, good or bad. Hopefully it's always good. I shared some of the crazier things that happened to me out there, and I won't go into that now. That's on a different video. But it's good memories. Now, they ask me, hey, Itchy, you going to go back to Sturgis again? I don't know. I don't have any plans of going back. I'm certainly not going this year, because if I was going, I'd have to be gone already. It'll end, well, the main gist of the rally will end this weekend, but I can tell you this, if you went there the week before or the week after, you're not going to miss a thing, because there's still a lot of people there, a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, I can't really say whether I will go back again. I can say at this point, I've definitely had my fill of it. I'd been there enough that I know what it's all about. I know there's still more experiences out there for anyone who would want to take that adventure, including myself. But I can't say right now whether I would go back out there again or not at this point in my life. I've got a lot of other stuff going on, and life's always an adventure, no matter what you do. So, and I'm into always trying something new. So, I think the next adventure will be something a little different. If you haven't been there, plan to do it. If you got a motorcycle, ride it out there. Nowadays, they got these fancy toy haulers. You can roll your bike right into the back, close the hatch, hook it up to your pickup truck, drive out there in the comfort of air conditioning with the radio playing. And then when you get there, you unload your bike, and you can still ride all around the Black Hills and take all the adventures out there. So, and now, there's a lot of argument about, did you ride out there or did you trailer it out there? Well, times are changing, guys. Times are changing. And because these toy haulers have all the luxuries of home, so why wouldn't you? You can park it out there, have your own bathroom, your own sink, your own kitchen, and yet go riding all day and come back to your own little condo, your own little RV condo. Why not? All right, cats, that wraps it up for me today. Until next time, ride hard and die.